Well, hello everyone. This is Father Hayes, and welcome to another one of our videos in our video series on confession. And what I wanted to talk about for a couple of minutes today is really what is sin and how we should be approaching our understanding of sin, particularly when we bring it to confession. The first thing I always encourage people to try to move away from is this idea of sin as simply, I broke a rule. That you have this committee in Rome, and they're coming up with all these rules that we call the commandments and the moral law, and they're fairly arbitrary in some people's opinions. And that's the wrong way to look at sin, all right? Because what we want to do is we want to understand first the gifts that God is giving us in order to understand how we misuse those gifts or show ingratitude to God for those gifts. Now, this might be a little bit surprising the way I'm going to approach this. It's a little bit of a radical thought experiment. But to start with, the very ability for us to exist, our existence is not something we have a claim to, we have a right to. The fact that God has willed us into existence out of nothing is His gift. We don't have a claim to it, we don't have a right to it, we don't have a demand on Him for that. It's all gift. And so right there, we should reflect on how do we appreciate the gift of our existence, number one. Do we recognize it as a gift? Do we give thanks to God for that gift? But also, in turn, if God has willed me into existence out of nothing and is holding me in existence, I don't have the ability to hold myself in existence, then He's doing that for every other single person around me. People I like, the people I love, the people I don't like, people I don't know. And so when we are looking at how do we treat other people, and it could be something as simple as do we ignore them? Do we belittle them? Do we take them for granted? We should meditate on the fact that they exist because God has willed them into existence and is holding them in existence for a purpose, for His divine purpose, and just as He's doing for us. And so that's the first thing in approaching sin, is to understand the first gift, which is the gift of our existence, and to really appreciate it and see it in a fresh light. Now what flows from that is we have the ability to know. Now this is something that we also take for granted. We don't have a claim or a right to the ability to know. God has given us this. This is one of those qualities of the divine, that God has made us in His image and likeness. That He has given us the capacity to know ourselves, to know other people, and ultimately to know Him. And so we have to be embracing the truth of this knowledge, the truth of ourselves, the truth of the other person, the truth of God. So one of the questions we can be asking when we're examining our conscience is, am I taking this for granted? And how much time do I spend pondering God, the knowledge that He has given me of Him? Because everything we know about God has come from Him revealing Himself to us. Theology is the study of God, or a better way to say it, the study of God's revelation of Himself. Well, how often in the day do we take time to listen to God telling us about Himself so that we can come to know Him as He knows Himself, and what He reveals to us about ourselves? Then what flows from that as well is that God not only has the ability to know, He has the ability to love. So love is very mischaracterized in our society today. But what are some of the sins against love? Well, hatred, certainly. Frank Sheed, in his book Theology for Beginners, says that hell is a place of hatred. And so, do we allow ourselves to get drawn into hatreds? We have a very divided society now, where we are really encouraged to hate the other, hate the other group in the ideological spectrum. And so that is one of the things we have to be on guard about. But finally, the thing that we also have that we do not have a claim to, that is it seems very natural to our existence, but again, it's a pure gift from God, is our experience of relationship. we don't have a right to relationship. And what I mean by that is that God, in his reality, is the origin and perfection of relationship. And so everything that we have in terms of our experience of relationship is God allowing us to participate in his reality of relationship. So this is where we get into many of the sexual sins. People justify many sexual sins of, well, who is the church to tell me who I can be in a relationship with, or how my relationship is structured. Or maybe it's that we have done things to undermine other people's relationships. Well, if relationship is a gift that God is allowing us to participate in, then we don't have a right to it. Therefore, if we misuse that gift in any way, and this goes back to that knowledge of God, knowledge of his revelation of himself. If we're not taking that gift of being able to know seriously, we're not going to know why certain relationships are wrong. But if we are misusing relationship, we are misusing the gift that God has given us to participate in his reality, because he is, by definition, relationship itself. How's that?